professionalism of how we execute programs now versus what we did in the early days. In the early days, and I think just naturally a startup is a little bit Wild West-ish by nature, and a lot of projects were done through brute force and hugely long hours and a lot of time spent in the field at customer sites completing the machine on their floor, which is draining on the people and frustrating for the customer. I think as we grew, as we evolved, we had to adopt processes to survive, and those processes meant we were much more professional at completing projects and ensuring they were done before they left the factory. And that I think is the biggest change that I've seen back in the early days. And there's a picture from way back where a machine was actually on the truck ready to go to the customer's site, and there was an extension cord running into the truck, and the programmer was still doing last minute changes on a station while the machine was actually in the tractor trailer. And that was just an example of how crazy it was back then. That doesn't happen today. Do we still have some challenges with getting equipment out on time and complete? Sure, that's always going to be the case, but much, much better. So I would say the products continue to get more complicated. The devices that we have to assemble have much more intelligence built into them. So much more in the way of electronics, connectivity. And when you add that onto what can be an already complicated small device, it makes the assembly process so much more complicated, and therefore the equipment much more complicated. So I think the complexity of the equipment has greatly increased over time, and that's really commensurate with the complexity of the products that we're trying to assemble. A machine we've done within the last three or 4 years would be the insulin pump. I think by far the most complicated device that we had to assemble, and I think it pushed this particular site to the limits in terms of enterprise program scale, technical complexity. Required the talent of the entire division to complete that. I think we've always told our team that working in life sciences, it's always think about the ultimate customer. So it's the person at the end of that device that our customer is providing and that we're providing the equipment to produce. And once you think about it at that level, the meaningfulness of what we do really hits home. And there was an example story. We did a machine for delivering what's called a target coil to an aneurysm site. So where you got a bulge in the vessel, in the blood vessel of your brain, and that can happen after car accidents, things like that. And they diagnosed that this target coil on the end of a guide wire that's the diameter of a human hair, that's fed up through the body to the site. Electrical charge is induced through the wire. It discharges the coil from the wire, and the coil unwinds in that site, and then the body seals over it and eliminates the risk of an aneurysm. And when we presented that project to a town hall, after the town hall, a lady came up to us at the front and said, I've got 3 of those in my head. And we said, come with me, and went out to the shop floor. She told her story to the project team, and the meaningfulness of that particular project, went from here to here in the space of like 10 minutes. That's why we're here. That's why we are passionate about what we do here. I think for me, maybe it's just me, my personality, not to take it so serious, so personal. I've learned it. Maybe I still haven't totally learned the lesson, and maybe I never will. But I think it's never as bad as it may appear, and enjoy the journey maybe more, as opposed to being so focused on a result or outcome, whether that's at the end of a project, whether that's at the end of a fiscal year. I'm no regrets, and I'm happy with how things have played out for me, but I think I probably could have enjoyed the journey a little bit better at times. At the same time though, I'll condition it with, I think for me at least, taking it personally is a factor of the success too. And that can be hard on the person. But when you take it personally and like it's, I'm not going to say a win at all costs, but like laser focused on an outcome, it's a level of motivation, a level of commitment that you probably don't get if you spend too much time enjoying the journey. Back in the early days, and maybe this aligns with a startup kind of organization, the investment in work, in time at work, was probably borderline unhealthy and not where it should have been. The new generation coming out of, you know, universities, colleges, you know, trade schools, whatever, they've got a lot more balance or focus on the personal life and the work life, and that's probably a good balance. But in our business, being a project-based business, at times it's you still have to kind of empty the tank when needed, and I don't think that's changed. Yes, we've got better with processes and tools and all those kinds of things, right? So that's that ability that's increased. At the same time, the projects are more complex and the timelines aren't getting any shorter. So at some point, there's a level of effort that has to be put in to complete the project, kind of in those critical phases. And at those times, yeah, you're sacrificing your personal time and your weekends. And I think my advice to folks there is that's still present, and that's still, I don't think it matters what company, that's not just an ATS thing, it's any company. That level of effort you as an individual put in, I think you'll get the returns on that in the end. So I feel like new people coming in, they have kind of this predefined path of expectations, and whether it's just a generational thing, whether it's something that's happening during post-secondary school or earlier, I'm not sure, but there's this predefined path that I'm going to start at a company, and in 2 years I'm going to be a team leader, and 2 years after that I'm going to be a manager, and 2 years after that I'm going to be a director, and then 2 years after that I'm going to be a VP, and then I'm going to be the CEO in 10 years. And it's like this, so it's good in one sense that it's somebody has a very clear path of where they want to take their career. The dangerous side of it is it doesn't always work out as prescribed, and when it doesn't happen, I see people kind of really mentally getting stressed out and a lot of anxiety about, you know, after 4 years I'm not a manager. Like there's something wrong with the company, there's something wrong with me. And I think my feeling and the way we've always treated it, at least within the LS business, is it doesn't matter, you know, what school you went to, it doesn't matter how well you did in your degree. What matters is how you perform, and if you come and perform in your job, to the best of your ability, it's going to get noticed. And the characteristics you have as an individual, as a person, plus your skills and experience, you're going to make that next step. And don't get hung up on whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years. Those durations of level to level need to be very fluid, and there's a lot of learning and growth that you can get within a particular level before you move on to that next stage in your career. Oh, probably. Like for me, I started with one of our longest customers, and that relationship would be in excess of 25 years now. And there wasn't even a life sciences back at this point in time. It was just we did anything and everything. And I worked on the first machine for this particular customer. I think that was really the first life sciences project. This place behind me is probably the most one of the most proudest things for me in leaving, because when I started, ATS was super innovative, super creative. It was the Wild West, and it was completely unstructured, but those early years, that's what kept me here, was just the creativity of the people and talent of the people. Once Andrew started, and Andrew being a growth guy, he understood the power of an innovation initiative and supported us in the physical space behind us, but also in dedicating people to it, committing to specific initiatives to drive innovation. And now it's culminated with an awesome site behind us that's just cranking out different things every week, every month. So not surprised that it's happening. Always excited to have the guys run me through what they're working on, and to actually see it, physically, an innovation go from an idea to an actual physical outcome. That's pretty cool. Moving into the future, what would be good is to see this replicated elsewhere within ATS. So, it's great to have this within life sciences, but all the companies, and ATS is going to continue to add companies. If all of those companies have that same innovative mindset and are supported with an innovation initiative, whether it's a space like this or it's something small or something bigger, doesn't matter. But if all those companies have that same mindset, then the ATS isn't going to have any problems being successful in the future. I think the first thing that comes to mind is just our size, scale, footprint, bench strength. The ability to not just have 1 or 2 or 3 large projects supported by your top tier teams. We can do dozens and dozens of projects that are of that characteristic because of the bench strength we have. I would say where we were behind from an innovation standpoint, call it 5 years ago, I think we're now ahead. And as we go to trade shows and we see what competitors are doing and we see what we're doing ourselves, it's kind of proving to us that we're leading the pack now. So again, customers, at least in the life science space, they're very risk adverse, and rightly so, right? They are directly dealing with people's health. They can't, in certain cases, they cannot make a mistake. And so they want to deal with a company that's got the track record, that's got the longevity, that has the experience in that particular market space, because that gives them a sense of comfort that, okay, we know what we're talking about, we've done it before, and we're going to be around not just to build this machine, but to build the next one, and we're going to be able to be around to service the equipment in the future. that's important for life science customers, and probably all customers of ATS. I'd say the other thing that I'm also particularly proud about is we've never given up, no matter how challenging a project might be technically or financially for ourselves. Instances where it probably would have been financially better to walk away, we don't and never have, and hope never will, because I think that's also something that customers respect. That yeah, things go bad from time to time, but how you deal with those challenges and those problems, and how you stick with it and work with the customer to get to a solution, that creates a level of credibility and respect within the customer base to continue to come to ATS. I do a lot of CrossFit stuff outside of work. I obviously from an athlete perspective, but I also coach, and I think my time spent coaching teams here has been super valuable in what I do outside of work in that regard. And it's also, whether it's just the age level thing, but to be able to convey some of those leadership skills or experiences to people in the CrossFit environment, because it's not all about just working out, it's about the balance in life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And yeah, I can coach somebody on doing a deadlift or a back squat, but I feel like I can also coach them on maybe what they're going through in their career, in whatever position they may be in from a leadership perspective. So I think that's probably the main takeaway. Oh, the people. It's pretty easy. My not just my direct team, which is that's they're like family, but the entire business and all the people that, even some of the businesses that are new additions to ATS that I haven't had the chance to spend too much time with. You go and you meet some of the people, and they're just like the team here, and yeah, so that's going to be tough on the last day. No, I think it's just very blessed, I guess, with the journey. I started at ATS, and I thought, okay, this is probably no more than 5 years, get some experience at this crazy place, and then go and get a real job. And I think I got hooked on maybe it's because I'm a bit of a adrenaline junkie too, but got hooked on the chaos, oftentimes use the word combat, not in the bad sense of the word, but I contemplated a couple of times about leaving, and talked to a mentor of mine at the time, and this is back probably 25 years ago, and he just asked me the one question. He said, do you enjoy combat? And I wasn't sure what he really meant. When you've got a project that's a bit lots of unknowns, lots of variables to the equation, dealing with all kinds of different people in different capacities, and some are friends, some are foes, and that whole environment is, in his mind, was a bit like combat. You didn't know what was necessarily around the next corner, and you had to guide your team through the zone, or whatever, combat zone, however you want to put it. And that whole environment just kind of resonated with me. And there, many people who started at the same time, we've talked about it, and if there's a common denominator, it's that they enjoy that combat stress of a project-based business. And when I was able to answer that question for myself, then I was locked in for the duration, and never looked at another company, another job, never answered another headhunter call for the duration. And Yeah, no regrets.